All right, Mount Columbus speaks. Happy Halloween to all you ghouls and goblins out there. The doorbell has stopped ringing, and I figured it's a good time to hop on and get a quick live stream in. I hope you guys had a great time out there. You were safe. You got great candy. I hope you didn't go to Darren McKee's house because they passed out healthy Halloween treats at their household. I hope you got all that licorice and all that candy. If you got the Twizzlers, pass it my way. That's my favorite. You guys can keep the chocolate. I know I'm a freak. All right. It's 2024. It's Halloween, and we're talking about playoffs. What? Denver Broncos in the playoffs? What? We're not talking about playoffs, are we? We talking about playoffs? We talking about playoffs? Denver Broncos in the playoffs? You gotta be kidding me right now. What year is this? It's 2024. Forget the last 9 years of misery. The Denver Broncos are at the halfway mark of the season and more or less in the driver's seat for making the playoffs if they just take care of business. I say that sheepishly because could it really be true? Take care of business, and the Denver Broncos are looking at a playoff berth in 2024. Now, a lot of things got to go their way, but mainly they got to take care of what they can control. So let's get into this thing, man. The Broncos started this season off 0-2, and it wasn't just 0-2, it was an ugly 0-2. Nobody thought that the Broncos would be talking about the playoffs. Not Bo Nix, not Sean Payton, not Sean Payton's wife, not Bo Nix's wife, probably not even Bo Nix's mother was thinking that the Denver Broncos had a path to the playoffs after those ugly, horrendous, throw it in the trash and never think about it first 2 games of the season. But the Broncos have done nothing but win 5 out of 6 games, and they are sitting in a great position right now. Coming off a big win against the Panthers. And let's dive into this thing. Let's take a look at the scenarios. All right. Look at this right here. Look at this right here. Look at this beaut. This beaut right here. Denver Broncos odds of making the playoffs right now sit at 55%. Huh? All right. Could be a little bit better. It's not 97 that the Bills got. Nah, it's not that. It's certainly not 99% that the Chiefs got. But over the years, the Broncos, they're probably looking more or less in the categories of these teams down here. Current odds of making the playoffs, Raiders, 2%. That's where the Broncos have been living in years past. Not anymore. All right, so the Broncos are sitting here at the halfway mark of the season, 5-3, with a 50% chance, 55% chance of making the playoffs. If they win the next game, that jumps up to 75%. Now, part of that is because the next game is against the Baltimore Ravens, and nobody, not Sean Payton's mother, not Bo Nix's mother, think that the Denver Broncos could beat the Baltimore Ravens. Matter of fact, Vegas has this line at plus 9.5. That's what it was before we found out Lamar Jackson did not practice in the last 2 days, which is fortunate for the Broncos. I expect Lamar Jackson will play in the game. The odds came down to plus 9 for the Ravens. That is an enormous odd for the Ravens to win this game. In the NFL, you get plus 6, plus 7. Shoot, that's flat out offensive, right? So Vegas thinks that the Broncos have flat out 0% chance of winning this game. And I'm probably somewhere in that category. I wouldn't call it 0, but I'd put it less than 50, right? So what if the Broncos lose this game? Well, then it bumps down to 48%. That's all right. Not a huge drop from 55 to 48. That's because most people expect that to happen. So let's take a look at how things sit right now real quick in the NFL. We just go around the league here a little bit. The AFC East is ugly. You would not believe how many bad teams there are in the NFL right now. There are 10 teams with 2 wins or less right now. That's radical, man. A third of the NFL has got 2 wins or less. I don't know what it normally is at the halfway mark of the season, but I don't think it's 10 teams. I mean, that basically means you've got 10 teams competing for the number one pick in the NFL draft. A lot of those teams are going to end up with 5, 6, maybe even 7 wins. They're going to start separating themselves here. But as things sit right now, there's a lot of bad football being played in the AFC East. You only got one contender, that's the Bills. Okay, AFC West. We got the Chiefs clearly on top of the league right now. They're undefeated. And we got the Broncos at 5-3. AFC North, we got the Steelers at 6-2, Ravens 5-3. Ravens are 5-3 right now because they've dropped a couple dumb games, one to the Browns and one to the Raiders earlier in the season. But a lot of people think that the Ravens are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know about favorites to win the Super Bowl, but they're damn sure going to be in the playoffs, and you probably don't want to play them. So what's going on with the Bengals? I don't know. Weird year for the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's go down a little bit further to the AFC South. The Texans playing pretty good football this year. When the season began, it kind of felt like, oh, maybe the Texans aren't going to be as good as we once thought that they were. But they've gotten better and better as the season progressed. They are playing on Thursday Night Football as we speak right now, and they're beating the Jets as the timing of this video. We'll see what happens in the game as it finishes off. Colts are in disarray. They just benched Anthony Richardson. That season is going to collapse. All right, so in the AFC, man, I mean, you got the Bills, you got the Chiefs, you got the Broncos, you got the Steelers, you got the Ravens. All right, Texans will win their division. Ravens will probably win the AFC North. Bills will win the AFC East, and Chiefs will win the AFC West. So we're competing with the Steelers, and I don't know who else for those wild card berths. All right, let's jump over to the other side real quick. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but in the NFC, the Washington Commanders are the surprise team of the season, and they're sitting on top of the NFC East at 6-2. Okay, I'm going to jump down here to the NFC West, which is just weird. Everybody's sitting at 500 in the NFC West. The Cardinals are 4-4. The 49ers don't have a healthy body on the football team. I think they'll be dangerous if they get their bodies back, but are they ever going to get healthy again? And the Seahawks are doing what they always do. They're a 500 football team. NFC North, all right, NFC North. This, my friends, is the best division in football. This is where it's being played. We got all kinds of action going on. Lions are sitting there at 6-1. Beauty of a football team. Packers sitting there at 6-2. Beauty of a football team. Packers 5-2. They just dropped a weird one to the Rams last week, but that's another pretty damn good football team. And then NFC South, we got the Falcons on the schedule for the Denver Broncos. They are on top over there at 5-3. All right, let's cut to the chase. How did the Denver Broncos make the playoffs? Well, let me get back into my frame over here. For the Broncos to make the playoffs, they're going to have to handle their business, and they're very fortunate because I mentioned that there are 10 teams in the NFL right now with 2 wins or less. The Broncos have already played 3 of those teams, and they've still got 3 more of those teams remaining on their schedule. So the schedule gods said, Denver Broncos, we favor you this season. We are going to give you a schedule that is favorable for you to make the playoffs. Look, when I was playing, it was a 16-game season, and 9 wins would get you into the playoffs a lot. More or less, if you got 9 wins, you were probably getting into the playoffs. Now, with a 17-game season, 9's kind of that magic number that you may get in, you may not get in. So if you want to make sure you get into the playoffs, you pretty much got to get 10 wins nowadays. Well, the Broncos are sitting here at the halfway mark with 5 wins already. Are there 5 more wins on the schedule for the Broncos? I think there are. I really do. Let's look into this thing. Okay. I am going to scroll back up here. All right, here's what we got coming up. We got the Baltimore Ravens. That's a tough one. Let's go ahead and just count that one as a loss. Let's hope that they beat them. If the Broncos can find a way to win one of the next 2 games against the Ravens and the Chiefs, lock it in. They're going to the playoffs. They will go to the playoffs if they can find a way to win one of the next 2 games. Matter of fact, if you win one of the next 2 games, I would take it as far as saying this team is no longer in rebuild mode. They're actually trying to win like now, which means at the trade deadline, you might actually go out and buy something. All right, you got the Baltimore Ravens. Let's count it as a loss. Kansas City Chiefs. Let's count it as a loss. Now, this Atlanta Falcons game, that's a big one. All right. If you drop these 2 games against the Ravens and against the Chiefs, then you really need to get a win against the Atlanta Falcons. That's a dang good football team, man. They got Kirk Cousins out there dealing. In my opinion, this is not hyperbole. Kirk Cousins is the most underrated quarterback in NFL history. That's right. I said that. Kirk Cousins is the most underrated quarterback in NFL history. He's playing great football out there. Zach Robinson from Chatfield High School, alumni of Chatfield High, went out to Oklahoma State, was teammates with me out in Seattle. He's the offensive coordinator out there in Atlanta, is playing really good ball. But that is a game that if the Broncos are at their best, they can win. I would say I'm not marking it as a sure win, but I would put it as a, yeah, we can beat them. Now, let's start talking about teams that you have to beat. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Got to beat this one, okay? Raiders, got to beat them. All right, let's move on. We got the Browns coming up right after that. Week 13, Cleveland Browns. Gotta beat them. I know Jameis Winston just beat the Baltimore Ravens. Jameis Winston is famous for going 30-30. He threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in one season. You never know what you're going to get. I don't care that they beat the Ravens. That is a must-win for the Denver Broncos. Okay, that's 2 wins. That's 2 wins I'm giving you that I'm saying I'm counting on it. Indianapolis Colts. There's game number 3. That's game number 3 right there. Why is this doing that? I don't know. Stop it. Okay, there we go. The Indianapolis Colts, they're also in disarray. Anthony Richardson tapped out last week, said, I'm tired. A quarterback, first quarterback I've ever heard of in NFL history, to tap out and pull himself out of the game because he said he was tired. He'd been running around. He ran for 30 yards, so he had to tap out. Well, you know what, Anthony Richardson? The Indianapolis Colts are now tapping out on you as the future of that franchise. They're moving on to Joe Flacco. Remember Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco that was in his prime when the Denver Broncos got him. Turns out we were 5 or 6 years too early. We needed Joe Flacco to get into his 40s for him to get into his prime. Although he's playing good football, come on, man. We got to beat the Colts. I don't know why this thing's acting up on me. I'm going to give up on it, okay? That thing doesn't want to play nice, so I won't play with it. Los Angeles Chargers. That's 3, okay? That's 3 wins, right? Los Angeles Chargers, got to get that, all right? Got to get that. That would be 4. Cincinnati Bengals, hey, right now, guess what? They're one of those teams at the bottom of the NFL right now. I don't know if that's a win or not, but check this out. Week 18, in a weird, twisted way, Denver Broncos fans, you should be hoping that the Chiefs are actually still undefeated when they get to Week 18, because guess what that means? They got the number 1 seed locked up. Guess what that means? Last week of the season, they're not playing their starters. All of a sudden, the last game of the season against the Kansas City Chiefs is a very winnable football game. All right, what if they don't have it locked up and they do need to play their starters? Well, now that gets a little bit more interesting, right? So I gave you a win against the Raiders. I gave you a win against the Browns. I gave you a win against the Colts. I gave you a win against the Chargers. Now we got to come up with a victory somewhere. We got to come up with a victory between the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Falcons, and the Ravens again down later in the road. That's why one of these 2 games against the Ravens and the Chiefs is really, really important. You get a win and take it to the bank. Mount Columbus is telling you the Denver Broncos will make the playoffs. That's it, man. Handle your business against those teams, and then you can find that extra win. All right, so you drop those ones. Let's get that extra win against the Falcons. All right, you drop one against the Falcons. Oh, no. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. You lost 3 straight games. Ravens, Chiefs, Falcons. That's all right. It ain't over yet. You got the Raiders, you got the Browns, you got the Colts. There's 3 straight. You got the Chargers. Let's call it 4 straight. And then you got an opportunity against a struggling, weird, you never know what you're going to get, Cincinnati Bengals to get that 5th win. My point is, there's all kinds of different combinations here. The Broncos don't have a whole lot of room for error. And if you drop a dumb game, say you drop a dumb one to the Colts, you drop a dumb one to the Browns, you drop a dumb one to the Raiders, well, it's going to get very difficult for you to make the playoffs. But if you do handle your business against the teams that you can handle your business against, now we are talking about some fun here in the Mile High City. It's 2024, and we are dreaming of playoffs. Let's frickin' go. And it wasn't just 0-2, it was an ugly 0-2. Nobody thought that the Broncos would be talking about the playoffs. Not Bo Nix, not Sean Payton, not Sean Payton's wife, not Bo Nix's wife, probably not even Bo Nix's mother was thinking that the Denver Broncos had a path to the playoffs after those ugly, horrendous, throw it in the trash and never think about it first 2 games of the season.